We are the poet, the pastor, and the pundit, opining each week on the intersections of faith and politics. We come to you from First Congregational United Church of Christ in DeKalb, Illinois. We hope you enjoy what you hear. Thank you for listening. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Poet Pastor Pundit podcast, where we three opine on the intersection of faith and politics. Thank you for bothering to show up. It means a lot to us, and we welcome you here. As always, we're going to do a little introduction of ourselves and then talk about some of the current things going on that we may have opinions about as people of faith. And let's start with our poet. You are?
Rebecca Parfit.
We know her fondly as Becky.
That is what I've been called, except by my father when, as usual, I had done something wrong. And then it was Rebecca.
John Clifford. That's what my mom would say. Nobody knows my middle name. I just give it away.
Now we know. Oh, I like it.
I am John Clifford, the pastor here at First Congregational United Church of Christ in DeKalb, where we're all members, open and affirming in a Just Peace church. And you are?
I am Sharon Nicola, former librarian, and my other name is Sharon Librarian.
Sharon, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Like
yes.
Marion Librarian
That's right.
from The
My
Music
friends-
Man.
My friends changed it just for me.
All right.
That's great.
Well, let's start with this.
Oh.
This being Banned Book Week, and
Yeah.
Sharon has created a display at church for us.
Right.
We've each brought a favorite banned book in. What did you bring? Becky the poet?
I brought Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass.
Of course you did. I
And
remember reading that in college.
it was
My
such a
lit
thrill.
course.
It was like it spread out huge, and books didn't do that.
Yeah.
But Walt Whitman did that.
Yeah.
You gotta love Walt.
Totally.
Okay.
Sharon?
This is one of my favorite books. All the Light We Cannot See by Pulitzer Prize winning author Anthony Doerr. And the characters are important, but the events as the Nazis took over Germany and tried to shape the minds of young people is chilling and stunning and wonderfully written. And I think everybody in America should read this book, especially now.
You know, I have not read that, and that's going to be the next book I read.
Yeah.
And I chose one of my favorite books of all time, Joseph Heller's Catch-22. It begins to interpret the sort of psychological impact of World War I, World War II, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the absurdity that was created in the aftermath of that. And it does it so brilliantly. And to think that these books are now banned. So as a poet and as a librarian, what does it mean to you that we now live in a country that is banning books, burning books?
It is so terrifying and so wrong and so scary that it's hard to even talk about it. What next?
Yeah. That is one of the
Sharon,
serious
librarian.
limitations.
Yes.
I read about and see librarians being attacked.
Oh,
Yeah.
My
Yes.
whole career, 40 years as a librarian, and trained in my master's program to be discerning about the books I would choose for a public library in a certain community. So most of the libraries I served were community driven. We got books in the library that the people wanted to read. But our selections were based on accuracy and currency and truthfulness and style and composition. But and budget. And budget was a big factor, folks.
Yep.
You have limited funds in any public library. And to think that any of these choices, especially in children's material, I was a children's librarian for many years, would have the objective of harming children is anathema to me.
Yes.
It's more than insulting. It's criminal.
yeah.
Good word.
By the way, there's a documentary film coming out in
Mhm.
August entitled Librarian.
Yep.
Really?
And it tells the story of how librarians are becoming the target of parents, especially
Mm.
with agendas and death threats, personal threats
Mhm.
that they're facing, and what they do in response to that. So we watch for that and go see it if you can.
Right.
Wow.
So this week I'm going to bring up two different ships and ship incidences. And if we have time, I'd also like to talk about the Operation Midway Blitz.
Mm.
That's the deployment of the Texas um, uh, National Guard to Chicago
Mhm.
Yes.
and the destruction of household and family. And maybe even if we have enough time, another piece of the Chicago ICE raids.
Mhm.
And that was, if I don't know if you saw this, the shooting of the Presbyterian minister. And if not, I'll give you more details about that.
Yes.
You look surprised you don't know about that. Wait till if we have time, we'll get to that.
Well, it's horrifying.
Yes.
And
Just the name of it is horrifying.
I mean, one of the things we're going to start with it.
We'll go with
We're
it.
there.
David Black, Presbyterian minister, peaceful protest outside the ICE facility,
Right.
manned now by the Texas National Guard,
Oh,
and he's lifting his arms up in prayer, praying for peace, and gets shot in the face with a pepper spray, and it explodes, hits his head. This gas explodes in his face, and he's on the ground writhing when he's carried off by ICE agents
oh my Lord.
And I mean,
wearing a collar.
if that doesn't strike terror into every single person in this country, I don't know what it will take. Because if I choose to live in a sanctuary city and I want to take sanctuary in a church, and I rely on the sanctuary presence of my spiritual leader, and all those things are literally obliterated, what is left? Is there a freedom left after that?
That is the question.
I mean, imagine you're a member of that Presbyterian church and you're watching your pastor being gunned down
Right.
by forces deployed by our government because they don't like what he's saying.
This is
A
really-
minister.
And that isn't even in the realm of what ICE is theoretically
Mhm.
supposed to be doing. We were told if ICE was sent into a location, it was for illegal,
The worst of the worst.
the worst of the worst. And seriously, a Presbyterian minister wearing a collar?
Really?
Yeah. And so while we're on Chicago
I
and
know.
ICE and the worst of the worst, I feel obliged to bring up the Black Hawk helicopter
Yes.
a week ago Sunday that landed on a 5-story building in one of the poorest sections of the city of Chicago, deployed 200 or more troops, fully vested with military garb and masks and assault rifles and bullet vests and their camouflage and their boots, and knocking on people's doors at 1 o'clock in the morning without a warrant, busting the doors
Busting
open,
them.
taking children, many of them naked and some of them in their underwear, outside at 1 o'clock in the morning and zip tying children together and then throwing them into vans and carting them off. People asking for warrants and being told nothing. People asking for attorneys and being told nothing. Just shipped into a van and sent to prison with zip ties.
I had not heard that whole story, and I'm speechless.
They call it Operation Midway Blitz. And Blitz Creek was the style of
Exactly.
warfare invented by the Germans in the Second
Exactly.
World War.
That's heartrending.
Okay, and the eternal question in my mind, so what do we, the people, do about that?
Yes.
There are legal routes, but the kids don't know to consult a lawyer. The people who have been stripped of their clothing and thrown out in the cold in the middle of the night have no access to an attorney. They've given no warrants to show their legal ability to do what they're doing. Who conceives of these things? Who conceives in our government of doing this to our own citizens,
Steve
their
Miller.
own citizens?
Gee, I wonder who that could have been.
Steve Miller. Speaking of warrants,
Mhm.
a Chicago city councilwoman
Mhm.
was handcuffed and arrested when ICE agents showed up in a hospital to get somebody out of their hospital bed to arrest them. And she asked, "Where is your warrant?" And their response was, "Turn around." They put her in handcuffs and walked her off to jail. City councilwoman in Chicago.
How much more do you need?
Government by vengeance,
Yeah.
And total freedom to do whatever,
apparently. I mean, resistance is our only option? I don't know, but I think peaceful resistance has to be one of our biggest.
Resistance, indeed.
Yes.
David Black, the Presbyterian pastor, he and the ACLU are suing our government.
Good.
And we'll see where that goes. There have been a number of lawsuits that have been filed in the courts, and even Republican nominated, including Trump nominated judges, are ruling unconstitutional many of the things that we're seeing unfold right now.
And I hear you, and I appreciate that. That is a slow process by design.
Mhm.
And from the time it happened to the time it may reach the courts and any other kind of personnel review, people are being dramatically harmed.
Absolutely.
Do you not think a child who has been ripped out of his home, out of his family,
Naked.
in diapers or naked, zip tied, thrown into a van, is not a traumatized person who will grow up someday and ask, why the hell?
Yeah,
Good point.
that's a trauma you don't recover
What
from
kind of future
quickly.
are we designing for ourselves? I won't be here, but their family members will be, and my granddaughter will be there, and we'll have a mass of traumatized individuals growing up to ask these serious questions. It is not a peaceful future.
I've seen this. I was at a grade school in Gaza,
Mm.
and these beautiful children
Mhm.
have grown up with the trauma that we're talking
Yes.
about now being inflicted on our time after time after time.
Mhm.
And it was heartbreaking. We listened to the teachers in that grade school in Gaza talk about all they're doing is what the latest informed trauma care teaches them to
Mhm.
do.
Yes.
Mhm.
And they're dealing with deep psychological wounds to these 4, 5, and 6-year-old children that they're going to spend the rest of their life recovering from. And that's what we're creating on the streets of America right now, is our president has declared war on blue states and blue cities within
That's
those
right.
blue states.
And he thinks he can get away with anything he wants.
So far, he has.
Yes. Guess what?
He's been convicted of sexual assault.
Yes.
He's 34 felony convictions pending,
34.
and
Wow.
he still gets away with.
And you have to wonder, where the heck are those Epstein files anyway? I'm starting to call them the Trump Epstein files.
Yeah, exactly.
Why just blame it all on Epstein when they were together in it? So I'm calling it the Trump Epstein files. And where are they, Mr. Trump?
Well, they were on Pam Bondi's desk, but apparently they're not anymore. And at one point, they had 1,200 FBI agents pouring over them looking for content.
1,200.
Oh, yeah.
And I am imploring all of those agents who got snippets of information about their president will come forward and share with the rest of us what we need to know about our beleaguered president.
Yeah, I have to think it's a matter of time and everything will
Yes.
come out.
Get better.
Yeah, we're going to shift gears a little bit. I said I want to mention two different ships. It's actually two different flotillas of ships, one in Venezuela and one worldwide headed to Gaza. Let's start with Venezuela. A fourth ship this week was sunk by the U.S. military under the command of the chief of
Department of Defense.
Department of Defense and the president, the head of the military, claiming the right to label them terrorists and in violation of international law, shoot down citizens suspected of being drug dealers. We have no evidence of that.
Correct.
Right.
We have only our president's word, who doesn't even know what was on the ship. In fact, the first ship that was shot and sunk saw the U.S. military plane and turned around and headed back to shore and was still shot and sunk, and every person on board killed. We are supposed to be a land where law is supreme and you get your day in court. If our government suspects you of drug dealings, they have to put an investigation together
Yes.
sufficient to provide evidence to warrant an indictment, and then you get your day in court. If what we're saying is if you're a drug dealer, our government now has the right to shoot you dead,
Without any preliminary investigation.
correct.
Well,
Gee,
the interesting thing to me is, besides the loss of life, they destroyed all the evidence.
hey,
They sunk the ships.
Yeah.
Were there drugs? We really don't know.
no, we aren't gonna know.
And now we will not know. That's correct. Yeah. A
It's-
lot of confidence building there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is America without our laws?
Exactly. I mean,
And a government willing not just to abide by them, but to be the infrastructure that supports
yes.
the law. Well, what do we have?
Well, I know we always talk about the law, but it seems to me the law was built on a moral compass.
Yes.
There was a feeling in all of the laws about the value of humanity. And it's like we're in a time that doesn't even value humanity.
Right. Not only
And
doesn't
I don't-
value it, but attacks it at will.
And I don't know where from no concern from humanity, where do you build a legal framework?
There's no legal framework for
No.
this. They're claiming that by identifying them as terrorists, they deprive them
Oh, yeah.
of their rights, which is insane.
Yes.
And not only that, this is Venezuela. Venezuela is not the center of the drug universe. All of their money comes from oil reserves, not from drugs. This isn't Colombia, where the drug cartels fund the government, literally fund the government. This is Venezuela. And president says fentanyl. Fentanyl comes from China and is manufactured in Mexico and shipped across Mexican lines into the U.S. It's not Venezuela. So I suspect this is an attempt on the U.S. government's part to do a regime change with
Yes.
Maduro in Venezuela, and they're disguising this
Right.
as
It's not the last one that they're going to do.
It just like sowing problems in South America, El Salvador and Central America, lots of money into Argentina,
right.
Mhm.
It was a
attacking
20 plus billion
Venezuela.
dollar bank bailout for Argentina.
Right, but they're arguing about
Oh, yeah.
providing health care for a few undocumented immigrants who take up less than 0.001% of the funding.
Right.
Okay, humanity. I go back to
Okay.
the basic humanity of our lives. They're not going to take the money with them when they go. Just
Well, there's another flotilla of ships in the news, and that's the international flotilla of ships heading into Gaza
Yes.
for humanitarian relief. Greta Thunberg is famously one of those, but there are many ships. And last week or this week, the Israeli Defense Forces fired on those incendiary devices sent from a submarine, drones dropping incendiary devices on the ships in international waters. And international law is very clear
Yes.
that a ship has right, unless it's doing something illegal, to be in those waters, to be shot at and shot down, and then have residents on those ships, I think over 500 of them, thrown in prison without food for 5 days, sent into solitary confinement if they ask for water, is a clear violation of international law. And all they're trying to do is bring food to children starving in Gaza.
We have no words for this.
What words are there?
Exactly. It's unthinkable, and it's happening.
Man's inhumanity to man. Let's celebrate it. Gee. And by the way, little Greta, who's now 22.
What?
Is she?
22.
She's only 22. She started clamoring and bringing attention to climate change
Yes,
when she was 15 years old.
that's right.
I thought I was hot stuff when I was wearing an MIA POW bracelet in
Rode a
1966.
solar-powered raft across the Atlantic to receive an award at New York.
When you think about people to admire, okay, Greta, Donald.
What a force
Yes.
Yeah.
woman is.
Yes.
I believe she's 22 years old. She is one of the ones arrested. I saw a video released this week, the first line of which is, "If you're seeing this, I have been detained by Israeli forces." I don't know if she is one of the ones that has been released yet or not.
I believe I heard that she had been released, but she does claim that she was tortured and mistreated.
They were all tortured. All of that. They have on the flotilla, one of the ships has journalists, and Israel has refused to allow any international journalists into Gaza to report on what's happening there. And that ship has been detained and its inhabitants imprisoned also.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So that's the world as we know it.
And you wonder why people are walking around being really depressed.
So speaking of which, I invited our poet to share with us one of the poems that you brought into me maybe a year ago, which has one of the most powerful lines in there. Jane Hirschfield, you go ahead.
Just read it.
Yeah.
She's a prolific poet. She's a young woman, and she's amazing. And this poem of hers, I've read quite a bit of her stuff. This one is called Hope and Love. All winter, the blue heron slept among the horses. I do not know the custom of herons, do not know if the solitary habit is their way, or if he intended for some missing one, not knowing even that was what he did, in the blowing sounds in the dark. I know that hope is the hardest love we carry. He slept with his long neck folded like a letter put away.
I think often of that line, hope is the hardest love we carry. You quote it to me often. And just as I was thinking about our conversation this morning, that line came to me. How do we carry hope in a time like this? It is the hardest thing to do, and yet we cannot not
It is
carry
both
hope.
the hardest thing and, in some sense, the most important.
Yeah.
Certainly necessary.
Yes.
Wow.
But it also, for me, raises up the fact that poetry is a way of saying things that you can't really say otherwise. And I think people think that poetry is la-di-da, some people, but actually it's crucial because you can say things that you can't say in any other way. And
Yeah.
I think she's a good example of that. Hope
We-
is the hardest love we carry.
We need the poets.
Mm.
We always give each of us a sort of a last word. I assume that's your last word for the
Yes.
day. Hope is the hardest love we carry. What do you have for
Well,
us?
I have my T-shirt.
Yes.
I just made it yesterday because our president.
Oh, you made this?
Yes.
I just thought you bought that somewhere.
Oh, heck
Good
no.
for you.
I'm very crafty.
I'd say it looks
Yeah.
very professionally
Yeah.
done.
This is iron on. I actually got my
Okay.
iron on. Yeah.
You actually
Yeah.
got out your iron?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
on sale now. You can email Sharon at.
Yeah. Okay. So, contrary to some leaders' opinion, whoops, I got to go the other way. Antifa.
There you go.
Yeah.
You got our screen mirrored, so
Yeah.
everything's backwards.
Yeah, okay. Antifa is not an organized terrorist group. Anybody watching who's been worried about seniors wearing shirts like this, don't be dismayed. We're not part of an organization. We are, anti-fascism. That's what our World War II heroes went to Europe to prevent.
Yes.
They certainly would be very surprised to find out it is here now.
Yeah.
So I'm all for Antifa.
Thank you. My last word, as always, is don't give up. We need each other. We are in this together. We will get through this. We want to thank you for listening. We are the poet, the pastor, and the pundit, opining as always on the intersection of faith and politics, and we will be back again next week. Thank you. That was our podcast this week. Be sure to tune in next week for another edition of The Poet, the Pastor, and the Pundit, opining on the intersections of faith and politics. Thank you for listening.